My number 10 was in the Summit Park Mall years ago. I don't want to do just blanket malls because it's too vague. Like, obviously, I miss these businesses, but I don't want to do specific malls. It'll be stores at these malls. But my number 10, because I feel like, the industry kind of forced it to go this way. But I'm going to put Aladdin's Castle as my number 10. Aladdin's Castle was a very popular arcade chain. It was the one that I remember was at the Summit Park Mall, and I always liked how it stood out. Like, I was pretty addicted to video games growing up, and every time I went to the Summit Park Mall, I was always begging for quarters so we can go play. And I remember there were several times where it was like summertime and my dad might have been off of work and he would take me and my sister and my brother to Aladdin's Castle. It was like, all right, you got all these shops around it. Then there's this very dark room with all sorts of fun noises coming out of it. It's got cool like black light. It's got this like rug and this smell. Like I don't know. Arcades just had this smell, and it was just cool. Yeah, it was neat. I remember like the first time I played like a Mortal Kombat game was at this Aladdin's Castle. I think it was like my dad let me give it a shot just because it was MK4, and I got smoked in the first round. Like I just blew like 2 quarters, and there's the thing where you're falling down the pit, and if you don't put quarters in, your character just gets eviscerated by all the spikes at the bottom. Gross, but vivid memory. My dad straight up said that I shouldn't have let you play that. There's another time I remember I was out with my mom. It was me, my brother, I think my sister was there, and my mom was doing some shopping at the Sears or Bon-Ton, which was one of the big stores. I think they call them anchor stores. And my mom's like, all right, just keep an eye on your brother. So my first reaction was, all right, let's go to Aladdin's Castle, which was a little bit away. And it turned into this full freak out. I didn't tell my mom. I was like 10 years old. I wasn't thinking. But security was called. We went missing, and it was a fiasco. But these are things that I remember vividly. And yeah, it was. I don't like the arcade like style now. The Dave and Buster's, a lot of these places, it's a lot about the ticket machines and whatnot. I miss just going in to pop in quarters and play games, arcade games. If somebody opened up a nostalgic one around here, like just a pure arcade, I would love it. In fact, I would love to do it myself. Honestly, if I won the lottery tomorrow, I guarantee that one of the things I would do is open up an arcade business. Hint, hint, wink, wink, future list. All right, moving on. Number 9. I missed the Cheap Show. So our local Cheap Show theater was the Four Seasons Cinema here in Niagara Falls. And it was great when Regal Cinema was the big chain around our area, and ticket prices were just insane. $7, $8, $9 a ticket for there, and for the Cheap Show, $2.50, $3.50, $4. All right, getting the older movies, but whatever. I loved the movie viewing experience there. It's like it had a specific sound, the seating, like it just like the ambiance. It was great. The cool lights and they had a lot of awesome pictures on the walls, and they even had an arcade machine there of asteroids. But it was neat. Like when I was growing up, like it wasn't easy to just go to the movies and the big movie all the time. So if you had to wait a little bit, right? There was no internet, so nothing was really spoiled for you. You just had to wait like a month and a half for a movie to come out and just go to the Cheap Show and watch it, then so be it. It was no big deal back then. It closed down. It got too expensive and whatnot. And to be honest, I hate the movie theater experience currently. Like, I think people are just awful in movie theaters. I think people pulling up their cell phones with their bright screens. A couple years ago, I was watching one of the Captain America movies, and some guy answered the phone while in the movie theater. This should have been on my pet peeves list. Now I'm regretting it. But the Four Seasons Cinema, which was exclusive here to Niagara Falls, it was a very special place, very special building. I just loved the experience of going to see movies there. And if anybody's from Niagara Falls and sees this, their pretzel bites were way better than Regal Cinemas. Way fresher, just way better. I could have just went there just for the pizza or the pretzel bites. But they had a really great concession stand. All right, number 8, another local spot. There are still a lot of comic book shops out there, but in Niagara Falls we had one. It closed down around the time of COVID. Just couldn't keep up, but it was called House of Fantasy, and when you walked in, it felt like a comic book store. Like it, again, smells. I don't know why this is a thing, but it smelled like the 80s and 90s. Like it smelled old. And when I'm going to a comic book store with a bunch of old comics, that's like the smell I want to have. I sound crazy right now, I know. But it was a really neat store, and I liked the atmosphere when you walked in. Like they don't make them like this anymore. They don't. Like, comic book stores are such a niche, unique store that they almost have to, like, to really get the full-on experience. Like, it has to be right. Like, it has to just pretty much be a comic book store. We have a business around here that does comic books on the side, but it's mostly a sporting goods store, and it's just, like, the vibe is just off when you're comic book shopping. And, this store was great. You walked in, right down the main aisle. There's posters hanging from the ceiling. There's old books. There's compilation books. To the left, there was all the new releases. He had the wall of new releases. To the right side wall, he had old board games and action figures and whatnot. And at his front gate, he had a bunch of collectibles. And it was a cool little shop, and it's just unfortunate that it had to go away. It was open for over 30 years, which is a great run. I wish it could have gone longer. I really do, because it was neat. I used to go there, grab some comics, then I go across the street to the McDonald's and just grab lunch. And it was really nice. So, House of Fantasy, R.I.P. That is my number 8. 7 is a department store called Hills. Now, this is probably, I think Aladdin's Castle was a decently sized chain, but I know Hills was a pretty big chain. I think. I can't say I know and I think within the same sentence, but I remember Hills vividly. It was in a little plaza here in Niagara Falls. Across the way was a Vicks, but Hills was this giant department store, and it had a lot of cool stuff and things. When I used to go for my Pokemon action figures, those little 2 and 3 packs and whatever, that was the place where I went to go get them. 'Cause I remember when it first came out, and they had a whole row of these things. A whole row. That's insane. You don't get a whole row of any toy anymore. You get these small sections, and whatever's there, that's it. But Hills was a really cool department store. They had some a great little food area. They had a fantastic little food area where you kind of go there and be able to eat. But Hills was a special experience. In fact, the Four Seasons Cinema was set behind the Hills. But the Hills closed in like 2001 or 2002. It became Ames, and Ames kind of folded, and yeah, that building's just cursed. We just had a Big Lots took over after Ames, and Big Lots just closed after this holiday season. So, it's real rough looking at that empty plaza. But Hills, for anybody who remembers that. Number 6. And I think a big reason why I'm putting this on here is because I can't put Toys R Us. But I'm going to mention KB Toys in this list. Again, it was a true toy store. And this was also featured at the Summit Park Mall and the Boulevard Mall, from what I remember. And I know it was a big chain, but I mean, it was a wall-to-wall toys. And it was for a kid, 6, 7, 8, 9 years old. That's all you need. That's beautiful. In a mall full of various clothes stores of different companies that you can't pronounce or you really just don't even care. The toy store was like this shiny just object to me. And I have some fun stories there. There's one story about my brother. I'm not going to tell it. It's very embarrassing. I don't want to embarrass him publicly, but it is a funny story. But KB was great. I used to love, walking by and they have these display racks and they'd have some of the moving toys like the dogs and these weird ferret toys. It was like a ball with like a tail and the thing would just roll, and that was kind of like their gateway into the store. But used to get video games from there. I think I actually bought one of the Crash Bandicoot games from there. I think I did. But KB Toys, that is my number 6. Number 5, this store was short-lived in my area, and I hope other people remembered it. Steve and Barry's. Steve and Barry's. I remember being an ignorant child, somewhat greedy. I had received a gift card from somebody for $15 for Steve and Barry's, and I was just like, what? What am I going to buy at a clothing store for $15? I actually ended up buying 2 things. That's how great this store was. Steve and Barry's was tremendous. It was, you walk in, at least the one that I am familiar with, and rows upon rows upon rows of t-shirts, shorts, pants, hoodies, sweaters, jackets, and all sorts of things. And the best part about it was the prices. $7.90, it was like $7.50, $7.95 for like hoodies. Like I remember I bought a Binghamton hoodie, and I still have that somewhere, and I forgot the other hoodie I bought, but I just bought it, and it was simple. It was just a solid color with some words on the front, really cheap. And I'm gonna guess that they were just too cheap for their own good. But I love shopping there. If I had money, simple as that. $10. You want to just go get a T-shirt of a college or whatever, just go. My feelings got really hurt because several years down the line, T-Shirt University, like they tried they sold like similar looking merchandise and I feel like they tried to make it look like Steve and Barry's, but they never put the price tag on their stuff. And I remember cashing out. It should have been my first sign was that there was no prices, but I remember going up to a cash register with like 10 shirts that I really wanted. And they rang it up, and it was like over $200. I was like, ugh, I could really use some Steve and Barry's right now. Shame on you, T-Shirt University, for never putting prices on your stuff. Or if you did, I didn't see it. But still shame on you for doing that after the greatness of Steve and Barry's. But that is a great one. It's actually really sad because I drive past that Summit Park Mall. It eventually was a store put in the Summit Park Mall. And the sign's still up. And every time I drive by, I think about $7 hoodies, $8 hoodies, whatever it was. So, Steve and Barry's. Number 4, Media Play. Media Play. We had one in Niagara Falls. It closed down many, many, many years ago. The building became an Ollie's, which is sad. Usually, when something great somewhere and then it gets replaced by like a discount store, a cheap store, it's very telling about what kind of place that business is in. That is for sure. I loved Media Play. In fact, in middle school, it became a really fun destination. Once a week, me and my other friend Matt, who lived up the street from me, we planned we would walk. There was an Arby's right there, and this was back when the beef and cheddar, beef and cheese, was it it was like 5 for $5. It was legit 5 for $5. Like you could feed a family for $5 because there was 5 Arby's roast beef sandwiches, beef and cheddars. Jesus. For $5, and our parents would give us money. We'd take turns every other week as far as who buys, and we just buy sandwiches and eat, and then we go into media play and hang out and shop. And I vividly remember this. I know my dad, probably both my parents do. I was in 8th grade, and me and my friend Chris went up to media play early in the morning. It was like a weekend, and we just hung out there forever. We were there for 6 hours. And eventually my dad just pulled up and caught me. I almost beat the Star Wars Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith game out there. I'd almost beaten it. And my dad came up. He goes, "We got to go. You've been here for 2. This is not a hangout spot. This is like a store." But they had a lot of cool merchandise there. A lot of, CDs and video games and a lot of unique toys and collectibles. They had a media play. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm sure other people out there thoroughly enjoyed it. It was a really cool place. My number 3. This was a short-lived thing at the Galleria Mall, the Walden Galleria Mall here in Western New York. It was called Kahunaville. This is my first restaurant. I only have 2 restaurants and they're back to back. Kahunaville was the coolest place I have ever eaten food at. And it was cool. I don't remember the food much, but it was a show. I've talked about how I'm like a water guy, I like waterfalls and stuff, but it had that rainforest cafe vibe where every half hour the animals and stuff would start moving, but at Kahunaville they would do a water show. All right, and it was a small thing with water just moving around like fireworks and doing all sorts of cool things. They turn the lights down and it would be all different colors. It was expensive. But Kahunaville holds a special place in my heart, and I thank my dad for taking me out there. Maybe the 2 or 3 times that he did. My parents. I shouldn't just say my dad. I apologize, Mom. My parents took us out there. Several times. I think it only lasted 2 years there. It was just so expensive. And there was some kind of weird story with it. But I did see on social media that one of the old signs for Kahunaville is in some rental property yard. Somebody just has it in their backyard. Their landlord just has the Kahunaville sign in their backyard. I have no idea why. But if you remember Kahunaville, please comment and say good things about it because it makes me feel good. That's my number 3. Number 2, I am so sad about this one. Yeah, this is really depressing episode. Even though we're having fun with nostalgia, this episode is really sad. I found out this year at January that this place was closing. Now, this is the only it was a local chain, but not local here. It was an Ohio thing. It's called the Melt Bar and Grilled. That is the name of it. And they sold some of the most amazing grilled cheese sandwiches I have ever had. There was all sorts of specialties. Every time I went to Ohio, whether it was going to Cleveland, Canton, or driving through Ohio to go to Indianapolis, I had to stop at the Melt. It was a must. My wife actually, when we were dating, it was our first year dating together, and for those who don't know, mine and my wife's birthdays are a day apart. Legit, same year. I'm May 21st. She's May 22nd. So to celebrate our birthday, I was like, let's go hang out in Cleveland. There's a lot of cool stuff to go and see. And we went to Cleveland, and she introduced me to the Melt. And I've been there at least 10 times since. Well, now I can't go anymore, but through various reasons to go to Ohio. They had some of I can't say how tremendous the sandwiches were, and the environment was cool. It had a cool aesthetic. It was don't really know how to describe it. That's how cool it was. But I had they call it it was a TMNT. It was a Ninja Turtle themed grilled cheese sandwich. It had like pizza rolls on it, and it had these various cheese and sauce, and it was so. Oh, it was called the cowabunga. That is what it was called. Um, they had a Kevin Bacon themed sandwich. There was a lot. They had legit something for everybody, and it was wonderful. I have shared many meals at that place with a variety of different people, and I was really sad to hear that it closed. Not that I have plans to go out that way anytime soon, but just knowing that there will be a time where I drive through Ohio and those areas, and it is no longer there. Depressing, very depressing. All right, we made it to the number one, and my number one is Blockbuster. Okay, this is like the low-hanging fruit. It's an easy one. I think just just about any closed down businesses list that you see, like Watch Mojo or some of those, Blockbuster's usually towards the top. It was a great family tradition for me. Blockbuster was, and like for our family for years until I got busy with high school sports, Saturday night was movie night. All right. Saturday night was movie night. So I would always accompany my dad or my mom to Blockbuster to go and help pick out the movies. They'd always get an adult theme movie for themselves, and which they would watch after we went to bed, and not like a weird, kinky adult movie, but something that we just weren't old enough to watch. And then they get like a general just movie that the whole family could watch together. A variety of different means, but I really enjoyed it because Saturday night was a pizza night for our family too. So homemade pizza. My mom makes, in my opinion, the best homemade pizza I have ever had and will ever have. Okay, there's that, and then we get Blockbuster because it's family movie night. And those are some of the best memories I've ever had, is going to that little blue and yellow store and just browsing. I talked about playing Pokemon Snap there, trying new video games out, looking through the various books, renting games before I bought them, and just trying different things. And Blockbuster was an amazing experience. It was a hub of just entertainment. And it's a real shame that they did shoot themselves in the foot. For those who don't know the backstory, I'll give a light take on it. They screwed over the guy who founded Netflix and later on had a chance to buy out Netflix and never did. They didn't adapt with the times. And unfortunately, I believe the only one left is that one in Bend, Oregon. I think it's all the way out there. They did a show about it. The last Blockbuster. They did a documentary on it. I miss it. I really do. When I worked at Target, I used to actually just sneak in there. If it was a slow night and I didn't need to push carts in like crazy, I'd just go hang out in Blockbuster. It was great. Lot of fantastic memories from Blockbuster. But there it is, everybody. The closed down business list.